Does your child struggle with focus, attention, difficulties with executive functions, maybe learning difficulties? Do they have sensory processing difficulties? Do they struggle with speech and language, maybe with emotion regulation? My name is Shelley. I am a Tomatis sound therapy practitioner, and I would love to tell you a bit more about the Tomatis method and why I went ahead and trained to become a practitioner. So I have previously worked with many children with ADHD, autism, and all those difficulties that I mentioned above. I myself have a diagnosis of ADHD. I have a son who is ADHD autistic, and I know that we both struggle with those things as well. I think what's happening more and more is that children are being labeled as ADHD autistic, and I have nothing against that. A label can be really helpful, give better understanding for parents, for teachers, for people around them. So I have nothing against labels. What I find difficult though is that people are simply labeling a child. We are then making a lot of accommodations for that child, which again, I am fully in support of. We need to make the environment a place that they can thrive in. We need to make accommodations so that their difficulties are supported. And this is something that I was not doing either as a teacher, as a tutor, was not looking beneath the surface, looking for what was actually going on for that child. We can say, oh, they struggle to focus because they have ADHD, which is all fine. We can make all of the accommodations, but what if we could look beneath that? What if we could look to the foundational skills that they have? What if we could make some adjustments? Maybe we could strengthen those skills, and that would then help that child to be able to focus better. It doesn't mean they're not going to have ADHD, but what it means is we are looking beneath just what we see on the surface. And this is what brought me to want to train as a Tomatis practitioner, because this is exactly what the Tomatis method does. So what is Tomatis? The Tomatis method is a gentle, non-invasive, neuroscience-informed approach developed by Dr. Alfred Tomatis in the 1950s. He recognized that there is a huge difference between hearing and listening. Hearing being that ability of the ear to actually hear sounds, that motor kind of ability, and listening being that ability of the brain and the body to process and respond to those sounds. So he developed the Tomatis method in order to strengthen communication between the ear, the brain, and the body, in order to strengthen cognitive abilities, so learning abilities, the body movements, and sensory integration and emotion regulation. So what is important about the ear? Why is the sound therapy going to make such a difference? The ear is a portal between the brain and the body, and that is because there are two systems in our inner ear. There is the listening system, the cochlea, and there is also the vestibular system, the vestibule. So obviously the listening system, this is how sounds are interpreted, this is how those sounds are perceived by the brain, and action is taken on those. So that is involved in cognitive learning, in attention, in focus, in emotion regulation. But there is also the vestibular system that is involved, and that is how our body keeps itself upright. So it's to do with our posture. It's our ability to recognize where we are in space, which way up our head is. It's the ability of the tone of our muscles. And children use this all of the time in learning. They have to be able to sit upright to be able to use their eyes correctly. They have to be able to hold a pen or a pencil in order to be able to write. If any of these motor skills and this perception of where their body is in space is not accurate, this is going to affect how they do all of these things. So as teachers and tutors, we often deliver these cognitive interventions. We do more reading, we do more writing, we do more practicing of things, which is all great. I am not dismissing that at all. It is really important. But what we really need to also do is go in at the foundational level. We need to think of that learning pyramid, and we need to understand that when those foundations are shaky, when those body movements, when that sensory integration, when there are difficulties in those foundational skills, it's going to be really difficult for children to build those higher level skills. So just using their eyes to pay attention, being able to listen to instructions, to be able to focus, to stay emotionally regulated when their body does not feel secure and solid. All of those things are going to impact that learning. And no matter how much of the higher level practice that we do and how many interventions we put in place, if the foundations are not strong, we are not going to get the results that we want to get. This is where the Tomatis method is brilliant, because it's addressing that vestibular sense, it's addressing that auditory processing, which is absolutely crucial in developing all of those higher level skills. So how does the Tomatis method work? The music is delivered through specialized Maestro headphones. The program is loaded onto the headphones so that the children are able to move around. They can play, they can draw, they can craft, or they can be still while they are listening to the music. So there are lots of options. The program is individualized for each child, and this is the beauty of Tomatis. Information is gathered from an intake questionnaire and also from a listening check that I do with the child at the beginning. And this gives me insight, but it also feeds information into the system, which then generates an individualized program specifically designed for what that child needs. So it focuses on various frequencies. The frequencies are divided into zones. Zone 1, which is the low frequencies, those focus on the vestibular system mostly, so gross motor skills, movement, that kind of thing. Zone 2, which is more the mid frequencies, that focuses more on language, speech, communication, social interaction. And then zone 3, which is the higher frequency sounds, that is to do with energizing the brain. It's also to do with fine motor skills, executive function skills, and those higher level learning skills. So those 3 zones, the intake questionnaire and the listening check, will confirm what is most needed for the child, and then the program that is uploaded is individualized so that it focuses on those specific frequencies. How can you do the Tomatis method if you think that this would be supportive for your child? Step 1 would be to book a free chat with me. Let me hear what's going on for your child. I can tell you more about the Tomatis method, and then we can decide together if it seems like a good option. If you decide to go ahead, you would be sent an online questionnaire which you would fill in, asking you lots of questions about your child's ability to focus and their speech and following instructions and body movements and coordination and all those things. That information is then fed into the system. We would organize to do that listening check. It takes around about an hour if your child is able to manage it, and we're able then to kind of check various things about those listening skills. Not hearing check, the listening, how they are perceiving sound, how their brain is responding to that. All of that information then creates that individualized program. If your child can't do the listening check for some reason, that's not a problem. We can get the information that we need from the intake questionnaire. Your child then begins program 1, 14 intensive sessions and 14 consolidation sessions. All the listening is done at home, but we meet for a weekly check-in online so that we can reflect on the listening, plan for the week ahead, and generally catch up, etc. Once your child has finished over the course of about 8 weeks, those 14 intensive and 14 consolidation sessions, we then redo the listening check. If we can, we redo the questionnaire, and we get the updated information which gets fed into the system and creates program 2, individualized program 2, based on where your child is now. Again, over the next 8 weeks, we do those 14 intensive and 14 consolidation sessions. We have our weekly check-ins, and then we would do the listening check and the questionnaire again, and then we would generate program 3. Typically 3 programs is what we need to see good results. And what should you see at the end, not even right at the end, but as we go through the program, is you should see changes in attention and focus. We should see changes in your child's ability to understand language, follow instructions. We should see increased emotion regulation. We should see movement improvements, maybe improvements in posture or stability or motor skills, maybe handwriting, and the ability to look up at the board and down at their paper, keep their bodies steady. All of those things, we should see progress as we go along. I know that it can feel really difficult to go beneath the surface and look at the difficulties less from a behavior point of view and more from a what skills are needing to be developed point of view. It can feel difficult when you're going through it, when you're trying to support your child, but it's absolutely essential, because other than giving them a label and then accommodating their needs, that cannot be the end point of how we support our children. We need to develop these foundational skills. I would love to chat to you more. If you think that this would be helpful for your child, please feel free to book a call with me. You can tell me more, I can tell you more, and we can explore together whether this would be a good option for you and your child.